Hello folks, my name is Jeremy and this is my review of the Solo Stove Titan, the new solo stove just put out. From what I've been able to tell so far, it looks like a great stove. I'm going to unpackage it again for you and let you check it out of the box. And also going to be reviewing the EBPrimatives fire piston. And what I'm going to attempt to do is light my solo stove with the fire piston and kind of show you some tricks on how to use the fire piston. That way you don't have to carry, if your matches get wet, your lighter gets wet, whatever, you've got an option to light your fire. And then you're carrying a solo stove, so all you use for fuel is sticks from the woods. So you're fairly self-reliant at that point. Stand by just a second and we will reset the camera and I'll unpackage the stove and show you how it works. Alright, now that we got everything reset, first thing I noticed about the new solo stove is it came in this nice new box. Now that may not mean a whole lot to some people, but the first one came in a cardboard box. It didn't have any labels or anything on it. It was just a simple box. And it already tells me that their company seems to be doing well, which means they're going to put time into their product. Everything about it looks fantastic so far. They've got the user instructions on the back of the box, so they save paper. Hey, save a tree. And it's got information on the side about how the stove works, how it cooks, things like that, and why it's so important to use something like this that doesn't use refillable or non-reusable fuel cans. Now, there's a place for those type of stoves, and I'm not saying totally get rid of them, but for the most part I've kind of done away with them and gone mainly to alcohol stoves or something like this out in the woods. Now this stove right here is not like the original solo stove. It's built the same way, but the original solo stove is a lot smaller. Let me get it out of its pot. I also have the solo alcohol burner also. If you haven't used this, guys, it's a great alternative to fuel. It's a good backup just in case you get in the woods and all your wood's wet. Alcohol's lightweight, easy to transport. But this is the original solo stove. And you can tell this one's been used. It's got some soot on it, and it's been used, not abused, but used. Although it will take quite a bit of abuse. It's a fairly durable stove. It's all stainless steel construction. If you haven't looked at the original solo stove, I would recommend that you do so. But now to open this one. The nice thing about this one that I noticed when I opened the box was that the original stove came with one of those real lightweight bags. This bag actually came with the solo pot. This stove came with a much lighter duty bag. I was not impressed with that on the first one, but and they may have changed that since the original ones came out. I was one of the first people to use one of the original solo stoves, so there may be some changes, but they actually upgraded the bag, which makes a big deal, because when you're out in the woods looking for sticks, you can take the bag and use it to collect sticks in, stick them down in here. And the old bag, I actually have holes punched in it where the sticks went through it. This one won't do that. It's a more durable bag. This is a lot larger stove, a lot larger capacity for wood, and as you can see, it's welded together. There's no rivets. The thing is completely welded all the way around. It's solid. It's a double wall stove, but everything in it is welded and secured together. So now that you kind of see what we're looking at, original solo stove and the new solo stove Titan. Alright, now we're going to switch gears just a little bit because we're going to light this thing. But what we're going to use, instead of matches or a lighter or even a ferro rod. Now, ferro rods are great. They're real simple. You can take a little bit of dryer lint and put it in there. You can throw a spark at it and it'll light pretty well. It does a good job, and that's a good way to light this stove. But I want to try something a little bit alternative. I've bought 2 of these. I've been very impressed with them. This is a fire piston. The guy that sells them, his eBay seller ID is EBPrimatives-USA, and if I remember correctly, they were between 30 and 50 bucks depending on which one you buy. He has some more expensive ones, has some cheaper ones. This one's kind of middle of the road. It has storage for the lubricant built into it, and it doesn't melt and come out. I can tell you that now. It's about 93 degrees here in Tennessee, and that stuff's still solid. So you have to get really hot to come out of there. I'm not certain what he uses, but it's looks a lot like almost like car wax. The stuff is really thick. I'm sure that's probably not what it is, but it kind of looks that way. It's really simple. It slides apart. It's got an adjustment screw and a little piece of string right here. That string is so this will slide in and out without getting stuck, because it builds pressure. Once you pull the string out, it'll actually pop back up on its own. But you've got a rubber gasket here. Now, let me say this. I've used a lot of fire pistons. I own about 5 of them from different companies, and I own 2 of his. The reason I own 2 of his is because they work. I've never had another fire piston that you could get it first shot every time. This one works. It makes a good hot spark. I've been thoroughly impressed with it. The other cool thing is it has a little rubber flap here, and underneath there you can store extra char cloth. And I'm not talking about just a little bit. There's a pretty good sized chunk under there. So I'm not going to use my char cloth that's in there, because that's what I've got for backpacking, and I don't want to use it up. So I'm going to grab another piece. This is the char cloth he sends with it. He sends you a nice sized Ziploc bag full of char cloth. He sends a little tub of lubricant, a little pick to pick your tip clean and also to pull your spark out, and he sends this little tinder catcher, and I'll show you how that works here in a second. It's loaded up with looks like a cedar mulch or something like that. He tells how to obtain it very cheaply on the website, but I've never run out, because he sends a big bag of it too. But it's just a you know, a mulch type stuff. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to throw my big wad of dryer lint in there, and the dog hair included, and I'm going to throw a bunch of this stuff in here, because I want to really get this thing going, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to get moving. Now, you don't have to use this much, but I'm going to use it just for the heck of it. How this works, you take his little tin he sends that's got a hole in the side, and you kind of pack it back in the corner like that. Push just a little bit of it up to that little hole. You take a little piece of char cloth, and I lost the piece that I had. You take that piece of char cloth and you wedge it right in the end of this piston inside that screw, and all you have to do, so you got a spark right there. There we go. You gotta get that little spark and drop it into that hole. See, it's already starting to catch. Put the lid back on it very lightly and just blow into that hole in the side. And I let it go out. Let's try that again. Like I said, this fire piston works really well. I've been thoroughly impressed at how easy it is to get lit every time. A lot of these things, they're kind of hit or miss. This one has never failed to spark with very little force. Another thing is, don't get too much in there. Once you get it lit, all you have to do is drop that into your stove. Set that aside, and of course it's started. Now I'm not going to get in any hurry. If you're out in the wilderness, you probably want to get going with some tinder. But I put a lot of tinder in there, so I'm not worried about it. Next, all you have to do, after that gets to going good, and it seems to be burning pretty well, start adding sticks. Alright, I'm going to use my solo pot. It goes with my regular solo stove. I haven't used it at all yet since I got it. I haven't had it very long. It's a nice large size, and I believe it's still going to be just fine. A little small, but it shouldn't be too bad. And we're just going to boil some water, something simple. I have cooked over mine. It's not difficult to cook over. You can adjust the simmer by how many sticks you put in there. So all you have to do is just, if you want to simmer a little slower, put fewer sticks in there. Once this thing gets established and going, it'll have coals in there, and if you want to get a roaring fire again, you just throw a bunch of sticks in there. If you want to get a slow burner, throw a few in there. You don't have to worry about gas control and whether or not your stove's got too much pressure or all that kind of stuff. It's just it's like cooking over a campfire, except it's more intense. And you can actually use these in most of your parks, even if they have a burn ban, as long as you're careful. I haven't met a park ranger yet that had a problem with using this to cook with, even when there was a fire ban in progress. We'll just go ahead and burn, or go ahead and boil a whole, let's just do 30 ounces of water. That sounds like a good number, just to show you how powerful the stove actually is. Now this is room temperature water. It's been sitting in this Nalgene bottle for a couple of hours now as I was setting up all the equipment. So it's not cold water, it's not hot water, it's about what you would experience if it was in your backpack. Now something to notice about this stove, it has holes on the inside. In fact, I can show you with the solo stove regular. It has holes on the inside. And what those do is, as air comes up this outside, it shoots through those holes. And what it's doing is it's re-burning the extra fumes. Where normally you have a very smoky fire, you'll notice here in a moment, this one doesn't smoke very much. It's almost a smoke-free fire. There's a little smoke when you first get started, but once it ignites, you'll see the little jets coming out, and you can tell that it's burning really hot. It's a very uniform fire. Now I'm going to charge this thing up pretty strong with sticks just to keep it going good, and put this pot on the water and let's see how long it takes to boil. I'm not going to time it or anything, but you can tell from the fire that we have it won't take long. Now I will say this, just some advice. Make sure when you use this stove You see how it's starting to smoke a little bit again. If you don't want to smoke up the bottom of your pot, there's some old Boy Scout tricks with soap and things to keep the pot from getting as greasy on the bottom. Also, if you'll let the stove get established, don't throw a bunch of sticks in and set your pot on there. Let them catch for a moment until you stop seeing the white smoke, and that'll keep from having so much extra soot on the bottom of your pot. Because nobody wants to get soot all over their backpack and their sleeping bag and everything else when it's inside your backpack. Now, one thing to watch with this stove, also, if you're using a smaller pot like this, if you'll notice right here on the side, the flames are licking up around the handles. You're going to have to find some way to pick that thing up. I've actually got a towel here to do that with. I use a pair of pliers sometimes to do it, or just whatever you have with you. I use a multi-tool, so it comes in handy. If you don't have a multi-tool to take with you backpacking, I wouldn't advise one this big. This is a Leatherman Surge. It weighs quite a bit, but it also is strong enough to pick that up without flexing, so it gets the job done. But if you're looking for something, Leatherman makes good products. Victorinox makes good multi-tools also. They also make Swiss Army knives, so if you're familiar with those, you know the quality. If you'll notice how much flames come out of this stove, it's, like I said, it's a fairly powerful stove. And the water's already starting to put out some steam, and there's bubbles on the bottom already. So if that tells you anything, it's 30 ounces of water is already starting to bubble on the bottom. And we haven't even reloaded the stove. We've still got all these sticks left over from where we started. You know, sticks are free. And you can burn other things in this stove too. I've burned charcoal in mine. Get it started and drop a charcoal briquette in there, and when I had one handy, that works. You can raid somebody else's campfire for charcoal, just little clumps of, you know, burned, charred wood. That works. I even one time, just for kicks and giggles, decided to burn my own socks just to see if I could boil water with my socks in an emergency. And I wouldn't advise it, but it works. And let's see. We're going to feed a few more sticks into here just because the flames died down some. But all you do to feed this stove is just break more sticks and drop them in the hole. It's starting to boil. We're starting to get quite a bit of sound from it, so I know it's starting to boil. I didn't want to check it too often because you end up letting a lot of heat out that needs to stay into the pot. You know the old saying, a watch pot never boils, and that's not exactly true with a solo stove, but it does let some of the heat out and slows it down a little. Not that I'm worried, because I don't have to worry about running out of fuel, because I'll just go pick up some more on the ground if I start to run out. But we've got steam and bubbles, and it's starting to catch up. I'm going to throw the last of my sticks in here real quick just to keep this stove going. I want to get to a rolling boil. Alright, back as promised. It's starting to boil. We're starting to get quite a bit of sound from it, so I know it's starting to boil. I didn't want to check it too often because you end up letting a lot of heat out that needs to stay into the pot. You know the old saying, a watch pot never boils, and that's not exactly true with a solo stove, but it does let some of the heat out and slows it down a little. Not that I'm worried, because I don't have to worry about running out of fuel, because I'll just go pick up some more on the ground if I start to run out. But we've got steam and bubbles, and it's starting to catch up. I'm going to throw the last of my sticks in here real quick just to keep this stove going. I want to get to a rolling boil. One thing to remember about stoves in general, and I've learned this with alcohol stoves, I've learned this with the solo stoves, or any other type of backpacking stove, that canister stoves, whatever. Make sure that your stove is the right size for the pot that you intend to use. Just like in this instance, this stove is actually designed for a much larger pot, 2 to 3 times the size of this, Solo Pot 900. And what you end up with is a lot of flames coming around the sides, and it's not that big a deal if you're, not trying to be very conservative with your fuel. But in this instance, you're losing a lot of your heat because it's lapping around the sides. Alright, and there's your rolling boil. I'm going to estimate we're probably, 15 minutes, 10 to 15. That's 30 ounces of water, and it's rolling fairly well. I'm sure we can get it boiling even more, but I don't want to boil it over the sides. The nice thing is, if you need to purify water, you don't have to worry about using up all your fuel to boil water to drink, because all your fuel is on the ground, or whatever else you can find to burn. So there you have it. It's the Solo Stove Titan, larger brother of the regular Solo stove, and also the EBPrimatives-USA fire piston, and that comes as a whole kit. So try them out, enjoy them. Thanks a lot.